Now we're sort of, that's a big, that first clause, once a single leader is constructed, that is a little bit of a black box. We don't really know how that happens. But we're arguing that probably does happen in that group, since people are looking for the one. So one gets constructed, and then there's little encouragement of informal leadership. So shared LSS individuals will, they might see informal leadership as appropriate despite the absence of cues based on their own LSS. But hierarchical LSS individuals will interpret the absence of cues to mean they're not the one leader, and they're going to adopt then a follower mentality.
What cues were we talking about? I'm a bit lost.
Cues,
Cues?
well, cues about encouraging more people to step up and lead. So if we're in a group, Zeynep gets constructed as the leader, and we've all come to sort of have a group mental model of one leader is appropriate. That if you then try to step up, the group will send cues your way that that's not appropriate. Or even if there will be cues in the environment that lead you not even to ever step up. You know, it's not just a reaction, it could just be an anticipation. So everyone's chairs are all turned to Zeynep. You know, Zeynep has the chalk, you know, she's doing the things, that kind of thing.
How does the group LSS get formed?
Through interaction over time. It's a bit of a black box.
Okay.
But, I mean, the group mental models literature says you interact over time and you get kind of a way we do things, kind of a norm-setting
It's
process.
also influenced by societal factors such as the level of democracy, probably.
Yeah, could be.
The prince and princesses, the stories, you know, all that. It used
Right.
to be just one leader, right? In previous.
And, you
100
know,
years ago.
and you're going to see in a moment, this is a student's, MBA student sample, so that culture might say there should be many, right, should be shared, because it's kind of a more egalitarian stage of life. But yes, okay, so that's that. And then if a group LSS is shared, looking for all leaders to step up, cues that are likely available are encouraging. I'm done in like 8 minutes, right? Okay. So the shared LSS won't be seriously affected because they already view stepping up as appropriate, but that would affect the hierarchical LSS, who will interpret cues as a sign they could be the one leader. Oh, maybe everybody's seeing me as the leader. And so they will be more likely to step up. So we propose this interaction between these variables. I'm gonna show you the picture because this is complex, and I don't really know that we have this right. In case you can't tell by my qualifying statements, I'm really looking forward to what the reviews say. So this is MBA consulting teams, and in our MBA program, we stop the last 7 weeks of coursework in the first year, and we send them on projects around the world. 7 weeks full time, five or six people in a group. And that's the age of our students. They're slightly older. They have that much work experience, etc. They go work for all these companies and all these crazy places, and Jim supervises some of them. And so we collected data at 3 points in time. We collected their individual LSS 3 months before these projects ever happened. Halfway through the project, we collected some of our control variables, and at the end of the project, we had the peers rate the leadership behavior of everybody else in the groups. How much leadership did this person contribute? And then we measured LSS again to compute the group level LSS. This is our LSS measure. We also had to come up with an LSS measure, and so we did 2 samples, validating samples to validate this measure about, you know, LSS. Group worked best when leadership is shared among multiple members, or versus when there's a single leader in the group. And you might be curious about distribution, because you might think, oh, all MBAs think of it as shared, or, you know, if a hierarchical view is dominated for so long, maybe there is no variance, but there actually is variance on this measure. People see it differently. So those are the 2 measure development samples, and these are our consulting team sample over time. And you can see that there is some variance on this. Okay, peer ratings. This is the established measure of leadership behavior, and, you know, it's kind of behavior and desirability as a leader. That's what we measured as our dependent variable. And this is what we found. First of all, we found that LSS measured 3 months before, your individual LSS, predicted the extent to which others saw you as stepping up and leading. So we would say predicted the amount of leadership you showed in the group. And there was a significant interaction with the culture. And it looked like this. So all of the means that anchor the top, all these 3 means are not statistically significantly different. The only one that's statistically significantly different is if you have a hierarchical individual LSS and you're in a group that develops a hierarchical LSS, you're especially unlikely to lead, to step up and lead. So there's that interaction with culture. And I think that's what I just said. So this is summary of the whole talk. That what we're hoping is that claiming and granting and thinking about these processes gives us a language to begin talking about everyday acts of leadership, construction, and organization. And it might give us a platform on which to design studies to figure out a lot of the issues, for example, that you guys raised. So like one way I think about it is, you know, in the US there's a lot of talk about the lack of women at the top levels of organizations, CEO level and below. And a lot of people say, well, there's no women in the pipeline. You know, we don't have women to choose to be these things. Well, maybe one reason we don't have women in the pipeline is because some of these everyday acts of leadership don't instantiate in them an identity as leader. So then they don't look for leadership development opportunities, they don't you know, try to lead in new settings, and it sort of reinforces itself over time. It just is it's a possibility of a different explanation. And then these are just findings. How claiming and granting unfolds in a group may depend on how people see leadership and leadership structure, whether they see it as zero sum or positive sum. And this believing leadership is hierarchical is actually pretty consequential for your leadership when you're not in that position. It might actually be a boon to you when you are in that position. That would be another thing that could be studied. And then group culture likely makes a difference. You know, that you're not just acting on your own out of your own beliefs, you're also reacting to the culture that is both formed by the beliefs of everybody in the room and influences the beliefs of everybody in the room. Yes, you had a question?
You mentioned this lack of women in the top line of companies. Maybe it's the non-granting behavior. Maybe women claim it, but they are not easily granted. It's an alternative explanation for, you know.
Yes. No, I would see that as the same explanation, different side of it. You know, that it's claiming or granting that's going on. But that process is happening at times when we're not even thinking about leadership development. At times, but it's very influential. It's happening in our MBA programs when you know you look at the you know sometimes the number of women who will step up and join a case competition or something is low. Or, you know, and you start to wonder why is that? You know, and it's happening then it happens in meetings when you're a lower level analyst in you know, and it just keeps happening.
Did you use gender as a covariate in the last experiment?
Yes, we actually, so funny you should ask about gender. We did find that, as I said, the women did more of that social leadership. We found no gender differences for task or change-oriented leaderships, the things that get you thought of as a leader, no gender differences. In study 3, we found no correlation between gender and LSS. We did control for gender in the first 2 studies because of this correlation. But we did, in the measure development sample, find a significant correlation between being female and having more of a shared LSS. So gender is playing a role somewhere in this, and it's to be teased out.
I was just going to follow on the Sheryl Sandberg book that's out, you know, the Lean In, that's getting all this attention.
Sheryl Sandberg being the woman of CFO at Facebook who's stepped up and said, why don't women just step up? Come on, stop being afraid, stop being wimpy, you know.
So it's to your point, it's all about claiming, but then the question is, will they be granted? But she's only looking at the claiming side, not the granting side. So that's a nice follow-up to it.
Yeah, and that's it. We have like no minutes left, but I'd love to chat with anyone about this.
Thank you, this is great.
Um,